Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm talking about Venus square Neptune in the natal chart, and I'm so excited you guys finally requested this one. This aspect, I have this in my natal birth chart. It's at about a 5-degree orb, but Venus is in my first house, and that's definitely still countable. And then also my mother has this aspect at a 0-degree orb, and I've studied it so much. Actually, when I first started studying astrology, like this is like over 10 years ago, when I was a teen, I thought this aspect was for sure the cause of all of my problems in life, and it definitely was the cause of some, but that was before I learned about other aspects like the quincunx and things like that that I actually think are even more prevalent in my natal chart. But anyway, so enough of all that talk. I'm very excited to do this video. This video will probably end up being a little bit longer because, yeah, like I said, I've studied this aspect so much because, yeah, when I first started studying astrology, I was sure this was it. This was the cause of all my problems and suffering. And I probably was not too wrong about that. So, when we have this square in the birth chart, there is a karmic energy around the love life. There is a very open energy field, a very spiritual energy field. You're very naturally open to other people's energies, and specifically in a love sense, you can kind of see what you want to see. You're very prone to crushes and being in love with someone who you don't even know, or that, like a celebrity. Or something like that. So there's something very unrealistic about the love nature when you have this square in the birth chart. There's also a very dreamy energy. There's an enjoyment of music. There can actually be musical talent or artistic talent, and sometimes the hard aspects of Venus and Neptune actually produce more artists or musicians than the softer aspects, because they create a sort of divine discontent where, you're very discontented with the way that the world is, and how harsh it is that the stress, especially of the square is like the most stressful aspect. You can actually be incredibly creative, and I think that's ultimately like one of the highest uses of this energy of the square is creating art or creating something, right? It's a very creative aspect. And I think a lot of the creative potential goes to waste here when you're, using all that dreaming and imagination and creativity on just solely your crushes or romantic partners or sexual partners. A lot of this imagination, I feel like, if it's just focused on the love life, which it can definitely be, we can have some of the most delusional people here with this square, as far as love goes. These people will love to sign up for synastry sessions, for people they haven't even met in some cases. So where does this karmic energy come from? You could say that squares to Venus show a past life love debt. Like there's been something in a past life here that needs to be worked out as far as like reality and the love nature. And maybe there has been something done in a past life that was harmful to another, and now it's like in this lifetime you tend to meet people who will hurt you or will delude you. You could say that it's like that, but there's a real need to become more real with yourself and become more real as far as relationships go, because there's a real blind spot here in relationships, in the love life, and also to do with your own self-worth too. Your self-worth can be really fluctuating with this square. Sometimes you can feel like you are the most beautiful person ever physically, and other times you could even border on like body dysmorphia and thinking you're like the ugliest person ever. And I've seen this fluctuate. Often you could also see with this square, someone who's very obsessed with physical beauty, bordering on like vanity, always seeking to be the perfect dream woman, This is more so for women actually with Venus square Neptune, because women, the Venus is like our feminine confidence and allure and what we feel we need to be to attract men. And so people with Venus square Neptune, specifically women, sometimes men too, actually, with this aspect, though, don't get me wrong, but we can be, always seeking perfection in the physical appearance. So we could see this to being, obsessively like shopping, or obsessively like, getting everything done. Something about my mom, actually. I've never in my entire life, and I'm almost 30 years old, seen my mom without her nails done, without a tan, or without her hair done. I've never in my entire life seen my mother without these things done. And so, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's sort of like an obsession with being beautiful, or being the dream woman, or looking a certain way. And sometimes it could be coming from insecurity and feeling low self-worth, and other times it might actually just be coming from that Neptunian desire to be beautiful. And so there's a real appreciation for beauty in others, and also in the self too. So and that, like, I mean, that could be positive or negative, right? You could see some very beautiful people with these aspects. And the beauty, although it can be external, it's also internal, because something that we get with the square is a very, like I said, open hearted, open energy field, huge generosity, the ability to see people in goodness that is maybe not even there, which can sometimes be delusional, but it can also be very helpful to be seen in that light by someone. So if you want someone to see you in, good qualities that you're still developing or whatever, a Venus square Neptune person is going to absolutely see those good qualities and believe in you and love you. And there's a real love for people from all walks of life. Like, there's a very non-discriminating energy with Venus square Neptune, which of course can be taken too far. The energy field can be too open. That these people can be too giving. There can be issues of not having strong boundaries, not being able to say no to people, letting in people into your home, into your life, into your body as a woman, or even as a man, like sexually being indiscriminating, and always seeking this romantic high that can lead you down some very interesting pathways here. So it can be dangerous, and the dream life is so active. Like, with the square, you can dream that you're in a relationship or having a sexual relationship with people that you don't even know, or you can wake up and really feel like it was real, your dreams. You can really, like, and a lot of the dreams are going to carry a Neptunian or romantic or sexual kind of energy. And it can actually be quite confusing when you wake up. So there can be difficulties with reality, like what is real and what is not. And sometimes, like, the actual dreams at night can really be vivid and confusing for the person. And you wake up like, what was that? Like, I still dream stuff sometimes, and I'm just like, was that me in the astral doing something? Like, was that real? Like, I'm still like, it's so trippy, you guys. So I'm sure you guys can relate to this. But so that's like when you're sleeping. When you're awake, though, too, the level of dreams and like romantic ideals of people. And this can actually be very good for, manifesting in love. Like, you do often have this ability to attract in lovers. But when you're, having these fantasies about people, sometimes you're not connecting into the reality. You're not connecting into the practical. You're not connecting into, like, is this person actually good for me? Or do I just have some vague stirring of a romantic desire or something sexual from a past life or something? Like, so discernment in love and relationships is key, because you're going to get yourself into all kinds of tricky situations with this square. It's very likely to have at least some kind of relationship that is a scandal when we have Venus square Neptune. Cheating, you or someone else cheating with you. Both are possible with this square. And it's interesting because people without this square wouldn't understand and probably will judge, but you're really coming from a pure hearted place with this square. Like, it's not like there's any deliberate meanness or like it's just that you easily get swept up into romantic feelings and desires, and that knows no bounds. And because it's the square, this tends to be more scandalous or cause more problems in the outer world. So there can be loss through these types of relationships. There could be, you could even be creating bad karma for yourself in indulging in these sort of indiscriminate relationships or scandalous relationships that sometimes happen. Now, you're not going to see that every single time with this square, but you're going to see it a lot. And enough that it's worth stating on this video that, yeah, you get into some kind of tricky situations, and it's definitely never a dull moment. It's you know, and certain signs are going to act out these romantic fantasies more than others. Like, there's Venus signs that are more extroverted, that are more going to like go out and get involved in these sort of scandalous relationships more than others, right? But it's more coming from this like uncontrollable romantic fantasy and desire and love nature that is actually far too open, right? So one of the lessons here, like I said, is to be more discriminating, to be more practical, and really think about things before you go off and marry someone that you don't even know very well, or have an affair that feels right, it feels divine, it feels like a soul thing, but like, is it really, right? Like, just be very careful with this square. And also, you need to be careful financially, because there's also a very dreamy quality with money, and there's a tendency to get involved in situations where there's financial loss, or even, yeah, like partners who drain you financially. That's something you want to be aware of with this square. People using you. So it can go either way. Sometimes you can be the one using people, but more often it's going to be that people that you attract, because of your openness and your lovingness and your like pure desire for love, people can come into your life that are using you or draining you or siphoning you and your energy or your finances or your self-worth. And it all comes back down to that need to be more discriminating in all areas, but especially love life and financial decisions with this square, because you're also such a dreamer that you may spend money that you don't have, especially for shopping or like beauty related things that you feel like you need, or love life, like love coaching, or like astrology readings with people that don't want you back or something like you just got to be very careful, very discerning about your love life and financial things, like I've said. So on the positive, this aspect, like I said, you're the dreamers, you're the artists, you're the musicians, and you actually have, like I said, this very pure-hearted, loving energy that is like, as much as this is a karmic aspect, I also feel that it's an old soul aspect. It's someone who actually has developed the heart energy, some sort of spiritual attunement, some connection to God. You can actually be very connected to spirit and God and intuition, although you often choose to ignore that in favor of your delusions. There is a real natural spiritual giftedness and natural heart energy and generosity and soul energy. And the soul is quite active and awake. And, maybe that's part of the reason that there is this mess with your love life, is because there's a soul remembrance of being with these people in other lifetimes. I mean, I don't know if you share the belief in past lives like I do, but I think some of us have had maybe even thousands of lifetimes. And, how I justify my crazy romantic longings and many, many soulmates that I believe that I've had is that, well, I've had so many lifetimes that I've been married to these people. I've been in a relationship. I've been, in a parent-child relationship. Like this, like we've been doing this. We've been in this reincarnation loop for so long. And you remember this when you have Venus square Neptune. And that's why things get so confusing. But just because it was a relationship in a past life doesn't mean that it's meant to be a physical relationship in this life or a sexual relationship in this life. That is something crucial to know with this square. So any like career where you're working with people in like a loving or like healing sense, because you have this very healing energy with the square, is really good. Or anything creative, like I've said, or even focusing on beauty. People with this square, like I said, there can be real gifts for beauty, like working in like doing people's hair or doing people's makeup, or being a fashion consultant or something like that. Like this is all very in line with this square. There can be gifts there. There can also be, though, a bit of laziness, and depending on the signs involved, though, I mean, it's not always going to show laziness, but it can show kind of like a tendency to want to take the easy way out and be, like too much of a dreamer, too impractical. You can even sometimes be kind of a messy person with this square. You got your laundry everywhere. You haven't done it in weeks, and you've got like garbage here. Like you could see even kind of that kind of disorganization even with this square. You're not always going to see it, but you can sometimes. So that's something to be aware of, that if you're living too much in your dream world, you're not even like physically able to deal with the practical tasks that you have to deal with. That can be very challenging too when you have this square. So you would hope that you have a strong Saturn somewhere to offset this. Or yeah, there can be total disorganization of the life, but usually it's going to be in the love life that is especially disorganized and confusing. And there could be love triangles, or many lovers hurt by you even because of your indiscriminate love nature. Now that's not always going to be the case. It sometimes can be, though. Now, what else do I want to say here? Drugs and alcohol should be avoided at all costs. And I say that in a lot of my videos. I'm actually a sober person, and I, like for years now, it's just, with my Saturn and Pisces, it's just not advisable for me. I don't need drugs or alcohol. And with the square, it's like, you don't need it either. You have so much imagination. You have such a like dreamy energy anyways. You don't need that high, and it can be very very dangerous to indulge in anything addictive, anything, especially relationships. You can be codependent. You can be so addicted to that person, so addicted to sex, so addicted to the romance of love and everything that goes with it, the senses. There's a real sensual aspect with the square that can border on addiction. So it's tough. You got to really be careful with the square and what you indulge in, because you will justify it. You will, say that it's okay and you don't have a problem, but you do. And that you can see this in addicts as well. So it's crucial to like purify when you have this square, because you're going to want to indulge in everything that feels good to the senses and feels pleasurable. And that's the Neptune, seeking God, seeking the divine. That's one way you can do it, right? But that's not the best way in this lifetime for you to do it. And maybe that's a part of the karma carryover from other lifetimes, is that your choices have been not very good, not favorable for you and your higher soul path, your spiritual path. You're here on a spiritual path. You're here with a soul mission and with a, really big contract around love. And it's not easy because you can be very deeply hurt. You're also very overly sensitive. You take things personally. Any criticism like will absolutely make you cry. You just cannot take it. You cannot take any criticism. And um you you want to be seen as beautiful as you see everybody else. But, that's not always going to be the case. You actually need to grow a little bit of thicker skin with this square. And yeah, it is about cultivating boundaries, but then learning to use the Neptunian energy in a way that's working for you rather than working against you. And like I said, this is very commonly found in successful artists or musicians or people who do something creative in their line of work, or even people who coach around love, because you have had to learn through your many various experiences, usually, the true meaning and nature of love from an unconditional sense. And love in, a soul love way that most people don't understand. You're here to learn lessons around love that are far beyond the scope of most unevolved humans, right? You're like the true spiritual disciple, in some cases, with this square. So, yeah, it's not an easy one. It can be very confusing. There can be a lot of hurt, a lot of heartbreak in the life. It can feel like you are just always getting your heart broken, or you're always breaking others' hearts. There's sometimes a bit of both, and it can take a while to resolve, but you are really destined for a true soulmate. You are really destined for a life of like spiritual connection and connection to the divine and magic and beauty, and you are really alluring. People feel that Neptunian energy flowing through you. People feel like lovers that you attract. They know that you can offer them the ultimate romantic dream. So you're very good at drawing people in. So you are really destined for a true soulmate love, even if you've had to go through many confusing ones and heartbreaks and soul ties and scandals and just crazy stuff out of a movie. You are destined for a true soul love. And once you figure out that you have this square, a lot of things really will just click for you. And you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's why. That's why I'm like this. And people who don't have this square do not understand. But I understand. And I love you. And I'd love to know your experience of this square. If you have it, what has it been like for you? I would love to know. And yeah, keep your requests coming, you guys. Love you guys, and we'll talk soon. Okay, bye.